Vishantu medeva sada tvadiyaha dayataranganuchara katakshaha Shrotreshu pumsam amritam ksharantim saraswatim samshrita kamadhenum. A very good afternoon to the August gathering. Indeed, my fortune to be a part of this summit hosted by the Fourth Dimension. I consider them my family and I pretty well know each one of them. I am extremely indebted for this invitation. I see so many such faces whom I've worked with, spoken to in the past, and this is happening in a city which is again in many ways the spiritual capital of the state. So kudos to the organization and all the dignitaries present in this summit. The topic that I have been ordained to speak is on the power of thoughts. Interestingly, in the English language, there's a verb, could be used as a gerund or as an infinitive, which is to think. So as I think of something, I contemplate on it, I internalize it. And in the process of me contemplating or internalizing, that process to thinking becomes a thought. So this word thought is very interesting. In English, you say, I thought of something, I thought of you, I thought of doing this. In that sense, it becomes a verb. The moment that verb gets crystallized, that thought becomes a noun. You say, I have a few thoughts to share with you. So the verb transitions itself into a thought. So the topic says power of thoughts. So I can very well start with the process of thinking, contemplating, and then we can crystallize that to the noun form, which is a thought. Hyunzang, I hope I'm right with the pronunciation of the word, because most words which are non-Indic in nature have their own means and ways of getting pronounced. Hope the Premier of the Republic of China isn't listening to me, so I would like to pronounce the way that I have heard, which is Hyunzang of the 7th century. From the land of China, the Chinese civilization wanted to travel to India. And the historical records state that Hyunzang was not given permission to travel to India. This is what? I'm talking 1,500, 1,300 years back, wherein this intellectual was not allowed to travel to India. So he took the long route. So he went to the Central Asian countries, crossed the Indus and reached India. In his records, he refers to this land as the land of the Intu. This is what he records it in the Chinese records. And he continues this description further. He says this is the land of the Intu, the land of the moon, the land of the knowledge. This is how he classifies this. And this beautiful line from his travelogue has been taken into the glimpses of world history by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. So he uses the same line of Hyunzang. Why? Because the word Indu in Sanskritam stands for moon. And even if at all there are any prospect boys and girls in whose houses you managed to take up the cause of the endangered species called as the arranged marriage, right? So No, that's a good way of not giving any pressure or work to the parents, right? You find your own partner. So if at all there are some people who are working for the cause of the assisted or arranged marriage, you will be aware that in most houses they would take your horoscope. So in the horoscope, in Jyotishya Shastram, the one who's the cause of the intellect is Buddha. Buddha is Buddhikaraka. Whereas the one who works on the stability of mind is Chandra. So if your mind and your thoughts are of stable nature, it means that in the Jyotishya Shastram, Chandra is in a good position. That is why when there is an instability of the mind, which is the instability of Chandra in your horoscope, the word lunar or lunatic is associated. So that's why they say on the day of the full moon, even Aristotle, the philosopher from the West, in his biography records the cause of the bipolar on the day of the full moon. So he uses the word lunatic. Even the biblical version of from the Gospel of Matthew records the word lunatic when it refers to the word epilepsy. So the stability of the mind or the thoughts is found with Chandra, who's the moon. Now let's take our map for just as a precursor to our understanding. Right from the peaks that begin in Brahmadesham, which is Myanmar, then you move through Arunachal Pradesh, through large parts of Tibet, come through Sikkim, come through Nepal, come through Uttarakhand, then continue your sojourn to Himachal Pradesh, to Ladakh, to Kashmir, to the northern parts of Pakistan and some parts of Afghanistan and the lower parts of Turkmenistan. So this becomes the crescent. So for people from China who referred to this land as the land of Intu 1300 years back, and to the Greeks who called this the land of Indoi, which is again related to the moon, this appears like a crescent moon. So Himalayas appears like a crescent moon. So people below that were referred to as the people who had stable knowledge. So this word Intu, Indoi, comes from the root word Indu, which is Chandra. In the Tamil language, Andal, the mystic poetess of the Vaishnava tradition, begins her famed work of Tiruppavai with this line: Margali Tingal Madi Nirainda Nannalal. Margali is the name of the month. The word month is referred to as Tingal. Margali Tingal means the month of Margasirsha. Madi Nirainda Nannalal. It is the day where you receive the cool nectarine rays of the full moon. So what is the word for moon? Madi. What is the word in Tamil for mind? Madi. So Madi in Tamil stands for the moon. Madi in Tamil stands for the thought or the mind. So moon is the cause of the stability of the mind. So this land is referred to as the land of the mind or Hindu. How do we correlate that with the geography? I spoke about the Himalayan ranges, which comes as a crescent. The one who's housed in the Himalayas is Shiva, and he carries the crescent at the top. So he's called Hindu Maulau. Well, you know, where did this mind come from? Vedam says, Chandrama Manaso Jataha. Moon came from the mind of the Lord. So moon is very, very important. Now let's go back to the topic. Power of thoughts. So as you contemplate and the process of thinking transitions into a thought, that thought says for the stability of the mind. I'll just take a few examples from our tradition where this thought has crystallized itself in the form of a civilization. All our renowned festivals are based on the moon's movement, because the moon's movement is what causes the Shukla Paksha and the Krishna Paksha. the waxing phase and the waning phase. As the moon transitions from being a new moon to a full moon, which is Amavasya to Paurnima, and again from Paurnima to Amavasya, which is Krishna Paksha. You call it Amavasya, or the day on which you celebrate Deepavali. You call it Akshaya Tritiya, the third day from the moon, where you want to buy. I don't know if there is any person who's been invited from the jewelry industry. I see smell coming from the agarbattis. I see food coming from the Brahmin foods. Incidentally, the person who spoke before me runs mouth shut. And I'm opening my mouth now. Such an oxymoron in one statement. So, we have then we have Vinayaka Chaturthi, the fourth day from the moon. We have Garuda Panchami, the fifth day from the moon. We have Thandar Sashti, the sixth day from the moon. We have Ratha Saptami, the seventh day from the moon. We have Krishna Janmashtami, the eighth day from the moon. We have Rama Navami, the ninth day from the moon. We have Vijaya Dashami, the 10th day from the moon. We have Vaikuntha Ekadashi, the 11th day from the moon. We have Kaishika Dwadashi, the 12th day from the moon. We have Naraka Chaturdashi, the 14th day from the moon. We have Satyanarayana Puja on the Paurnima, which is the next phase where it begins. So, this transition, all our festivals are based on the moon. Let's go to another beautiful point. Of course, you will have to add the epithet of being beautiful or not. I shouldn't be that greedy for me to add the word before that. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad comes up with a statement. It says, when the Jivatma has to exit the body, each of the Indriyas, one of your senses, goes in connection with the nature. So it is said, Chakshoho, your eyes, go in connection with the sun. So now, of course, there are no exceptions which are taken into consideration here. Let's say for a person who's normally, naturally in the process of dying. So as the Jivatma signals the body, one of the senses starts getting merged with the natural entity, says Upanishad. So the eyes go to the sun. Manah Chandraha is a statement. It says, as you are about to depart, the mind goes to the moon. This is what Upanishad states. I will tell you how this thought has beautifully transitioned into literature. There was a great poet called Sri Harsha. Sri Harsha was a poet who wrote Ptolemaic verses and philosophical treatises like Khandana Khanda Kadya and so on. So in one of his works called as Nala Charitram, which is Naishadham, there is this lady called Damayanti who is head over heels in love with this king called as Nala. There is a Nala Vemba. Tamil இலக்கியத்தில் ஆர்வம் உள்ளவர்களுக்கு நள வெம்பாவினுடைய ஆற்றலும் பெருமையும் தெரியும். So this lady was in love with Nala. At one point in time, there was a lovelorn scenario. She was away from her beloved, who is Nala. So as she was looking at the moon in the night, she was looking to the moon. She was conversing with the moon. So she tells, "Oh, you moon, you have been probably under the assumption that if I die for the sake of Nala, because I'm separated from him, maybe in a few days or a few months from now I'll die out of the separation that's caused, the melancholy that's born out of it. In that case, oh you moon, you have been thinking, the moment I die, I shall be with you. Because the Upanishad statement says, as you die, your mind will be with the moon. But moon, you have been under the wrong assumption that the Upanishad refers to you. No, it talks about the moon-like face of Nala, my beloved, not you. Nala Mukhendu. So even if I die, my mind will go to the moon-like face of my beloved and not to you. So the thought that the mind will go to the moon has been transitioned into beautiful literature. So a civilization assimilates thoughts and puts that into literature. Well, The one who's called the scion of the Ikshvaku Kulam, Rama, though he came in the race of Vivaswan or sun, you know what was he called? Ramachandra. Chandrakantananam Ramam Ativa Priyadarshanam. His face shines with the cool rays of the moon, is what Valmiki tells. Now the same thought of the moon, how it gets transitioned into the question of character. Let's see that. It is believed that the Adhi Devata of the moon, Chandra, one day wanted to meet his teacher. His teacher was Brihaspati. Brihaspati is referred to as Guru. So he goes knocking at the house of his Guru. The Guru has gone somewhere on a 3-day sojourn, he is not returned. So the one who opens the door is the Guru's wife called Tara. So Chandra was one of the mind is the most beautiful, right? So you call it the beautiful mind. So if mind is moon, he was beautiful too. So as he was given entry to the room, to the hermitage, he was being given the hospitality thrown by Guru's wife Tara. Just in a span of 3 days, Chandra develops love with his teacher's wife. And his teacher's wife Tara and Chandra in a relationship for some time. Over a period of time, this lady turns pregnant. And she delivers a child who's called Buddha. So the son, biological son of Chandra and his guru, whose Brihaspati's wife, is Buddha. Now, this is a transition. Now this is what we have understood in the form of a story. Let's see how it gets transitioned to literature. This Chandra had many wives who were the stars. All the stars are wedded to the moon, is what the civilization states. So people will ask, on which tithi were you born? You may say, I was born on a Ekadashi or Dvadashi. Which nakshatra were you born? Nakshatra is Chandra's wife. All these stars, whichever star you name, the 27, they are all the wives of Chandra. So someone just remarked on a very, very light vein. I wouldn't even say lighter, it was the lightest of the veins that he remarked. He said, to every person, a primitive mortal existing on earth, he would say, let me introduce my better half. She is my star. How would Chandra do it? The stars were his wife. Right, so he didn't have to go elevating the wife to a star's position. The stars were his wife. So, Chandra had stars as his wife. One of the wives was Rohini. Any dignitary here whose nakshatra is Rohini? I mean not Raghuvaran's wife, the star. So there's Rohini here. So Rohini is the wife of Chandra. Rohini is incidentally a star and one of the famous wives of Chandra, because he would take her only to the page 3 parties. So the other stars were not given that right. So his most favorite wife was Rohini. So Chandra had a relationship with a lady called Tara and they had a son called Buddha. So to Buddha, Rohini is a stepmother. So there's a mother-son relationship there. Ravana, let's go to Ramayana. Now let's see where the connection is. Ravana, who was the king of Lanka after he had seized it from his half-brother Kubera on a Sebi closing. So he owned the island. And the moment he heard the description of Sita given to by his sister, his widowed sister called Shurpanakha, he wants to have Sita for himself. So he uses the help of his magician uncle called as Maricha, and he comes all the way to Maharashtra to a place called Nashik on the banks of river Godavari. While Rama is moved away from the scene and Lakshmana runs behind to protect the call of help that was given by his brother's voice, Ravana comes in the disguise of an ascetic and he had to kidnap Sita. So his thoughts were, Sita should be in my harem. She should be in his thoughts the better half. So as he comes and approaches Sita, for a minute there was a change in the thought of him, that he couldn't actually force himself on her. So for a moment he thought that she should be respected. How do we know that? From a line. I'll tell you where that line is. The thought that she should be his mistress, for a minute, for a second, changed to the thought where he said, I think I should treat her with respect. That is why he didn't die instantly, is what the commentators say. So he kidnaps Sita. At that point in time, you know what Valmiki says? He kidnaps Sita like how Buddha would end up kidnapping Rohini. Who's Buddha? That is why I gave you the description 3.5 minutes back. Hoping that my language would have been comprehensible, my sentences were traceable, and some part of it was at least relishable. So, Buddha is the son of Chandra, Rohini is the wife of Chandra. So, Buddha has a mother-son relationship with Rohini. So, that is why Buddham iva Rohini, says Valmiki. So, the thought that a person could go characterless is also traced back to moon in this land. So that's another example. Well, I don't know how many of you have heard of this. On the day of Chaturthi, some of your parents may be visiting the shrine of Vinayaka, Ganesha. And how many of you have heard that you shouldn't be looking at the moon on the 4th night? Anybody? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You've heard it now. If you haven't heard it before, at least you've heard it now. So let's take solace in that. So, during the times of Krishna, Krishna shifted his capital from Uttar Pradesh to Gujarat because there was some conflict with Bihar. Jarasandha, Magadha Desha Raja, was coming to Uttar Pradesh, so he shifted the entire citizenship of all the people to Gujarat. So women were surprised, they were flabbergasted, they went to the mirror and saw what was a sari on the previous day this way became the other way round in one night. So from dal khichdi, they transitioned to dokla, chunda, fafda, thepla, khandvi and kotbari vadi. So they just transitioned one day. So Krishna was now ruling Dwaraka and Gujarat. During his stay in Gujarat, he noticed that one family was progressing extensively. To understand the secrets of the family, he deployed a group of people from the government itself, and they came up with a report, a commissioned report, stating that this person called Satrajit worships a certain gem called a Syamantakam. So the Syamantaka is a gem given by the sun. Sun has a huge connection with that part. Remember, the Tropic of Cancer passes there. That is why you have many sun temples of Modhera, of let's say Multan in Pakistan. All these temples just above and below the Tropic of Cancer. It's called the Shaura belt. That is why that region is called Shaurashtra. Shauram is sun. So those group of people during the invasion started making Shungadi in Madurai. They were also called Saurashtra, right? So they came from the worship, the land of the sun. Now, the moment Krishna understood that this was a gem that was floating in Gujarat, he said that this has to be under the government control. Something which is of this priceless nature shouldn't be with an individual. This person refused to depart with that gem. The next day, there was a huge headline because the gem went missing. So immediately there was a call, Krishna Chor Hai. Because he had asked for the gem. Next day the gem goes missing, and Krishna didn't have a reputed history with integrity. So he was called Ranachodarai, he was called the Chor and everything. So obviously fingers were pointed to Krishna. Krishna was amazed and flabbergasted, to say the least. When I did steal butter, people were justifying my act, and today when I'm doing nothing, people call me a thief. So he had to excuse himself from the accusation put at him. So that's when he goes to the forest and gets the gem back from, that's a different story. So he gets the gem back. Then he comes back and starts wondering, why should an accusation such as this, which is false in nature, fall on me? That is when Narada comes and says that you looked at the moon on the fourth night. So this accusation has come because it's a belief that when you look at the moon on the Chaturthi night, a false accusation will always come on you. So to mitigate that, Krishna performs this vratam called as Vinayaka Vratam, which has been mentioned by Muthuswami Dikshitar of Tiruvarur. Tiruvarur has produced many intellectuals, just not one. So, in the list of intellectuals, we have one called as Muthuswami Dikshitar, who says, Rauhiniya Nujarchitam, the one who has been worshipped by the brother of the son of Rohini. So Rohini incidentally was the name of Balarama's mother. So Balarama's mother, Rohini's son Balarama, was called Rauhiniya. His Anuja, whose brother is Krishna, Rauhiniya Nujarchitam. So to mitigate that, this thought is just not local in nature. We talk about local products, right? This is transition boundaries. Even Krishna Devaraya in his magnum opus called Amukta Malyada, a Telugu classical work, says, it seems Andal used to look at the moon. If you look at the moon on the fourth night, the false accusation will come on you. You will become a thief. But when moon looked at Andal on the fourth night, it seems he was called a thief because he robbed away the beauty of Andal. So literature carries the concept of thoughts. So today, where I began with the very process to tell that Indu, Indoi stands for Indu, which is the moon. And this land was called the land of the moon, the land of the knowledge, the land of the stable knowledge. I don't know how many of you follow the Tamil yesteryear movies. There's a beautiful dialogue from Poombuhar. Vijay Kumari carries that anklet in her hand. She has been crystallized into a statue. And there was an issue where to keep her, facing the city or facing the sea in Chennai. Let's now remember Vijay Kumari for some time. So she carried that anklet, seeking justice for her beheaded, guillotined husband. She goes to the court of the Pandian called as Nedunjaliya Pandian. You know what she says? Nedunjaliya Pandiyane, Needi Tavariya Unakku, Venkotra Kudai Edarku. This is a dialogue from the movie. Why? Because most kings in those days, all three functions were combined into one person. If the city or the province is in trouble, the king has to personally go and fight. If there is an issue that has come up to the king's court, the king has to become the judge. If there is a question of arts and culture which is to be nurtured, it is the king who has to do it. Everything was centralized in the king. Today we have separated that. Suppose I have an issue, I go to the court, the judgment is given by the court. If there is an attack from China or Pakistan, the army fights it. So there is no one leader who encompasses all these functions. But in those days, the king had to be learned. The king had to be very good in making decisions and giving judgments. The king had to be valorous to fight his enemies. The king had to be a patron and a fan of arts and culture. So that is why you have a Chola Raja who used to give decisions. The same Chola Raja used to have a naval fleet like Rajaraja Chola to fight the enemies. The same Rajaraja Chola will build a temple also. So he had to be everything. This is too much of an expectation today. Right? You can't expect everything to come into one person. One in one person itself is such a task today. So you had everything. Now, how was the Venkotra Kodai? Venkotra Kodai will just be a replica of the Himalayas, if you see. I spoke from Myanmar to Afghanistan, right? So it comes like a crescent moon. So the king had to sit under the replica of the moon, and the moon that gives the cool rays, even the umbrella had to give. So Venkotra Kudai, because the king had to make decisions with a stable mind. So Kannagi is asking, when you have made a wrong decision to kill the wrong person who's my husband, then you have not made a stable decision at all. Your mind has not been functioning. In that case, why do you need the umbrella? Needi Tavariya Unakku, Venkotra Kudai Edarku. Because this is the land of the moon. the land of the knowledge, the land of the stable knowledge. Now that I've covered Krishna, Rama, some parts of history, let me get to the Tamil literature. Andal, the mystic poetess, this would have been an apt topic had this conference happened in Madurai, because they own Andal, right? Nevertheless, for a few minutes, let's say Kongunadu also owns Andal. Now, Andal tells in one of her pasurams, Kilvanam Vellendru Yerumai Siruveedu Meivan Parandanagan Mikkulla Pillaigalum Povan Pohinnare Pogamal Kattu Unnai Kuvuvan Vandu Nindrom Kodukalamuடைய Pavai Elundirai Paadipparai Kondu Mavai Pilandanai Mallarai Mattiya Devadi Devanai Sendru Nam Sevittal Avavendru Araindu Arul Yelor Embavai. So here, Andal, she is in the process of waking up her friends. She says, I don't have to have the anubhavam, the experience of seeing Paramatma just alone, ekakina rameta. Let me have some friends too. So she goes knocking the door of her friend. The friend is totally lethargic. The beauty was, Swati is such a good friend, she was talking about exercises. I'm just in the other end of the spectrum. I take an auto rickshaw to go to my bathroom. So I don't even want to count those steps into my health. So somebody said, what will happen if you don't exercise? I said, I may die a gory death, that's still okay. So now, coming to the point, Andal goes and knocks at the door of her friend so that she could also join her in the wee hours of the morning. As she knocks, the girl inside says, why should I wake up? This girl is a very, Hindi mein jo bolte hain chalu, very clever. She knows what to talk, how to talk. So this girl has been debating with Andal. So the girl inside says, I won't wake up. Andal tells, you have to wake up, you have to join me. See, other friends have come. So the girl inside asks, what is the sign that the nature shows that it is early hour? You could be, I remember my mother, she will wake me up at somewhere around 3:30 or 4 in the morning, and I'll ask, why are you waking me up now? It's already 6:30, she'll say. So I would wake up, and then to my loss, I'll find it will be 3:30. So probably Andal could also be playing prank with her friend, right? So this girl inside asks, Andal, you're waking me up. You tell me, why should I wake up? What is the sign that it is early morning? Andal tells, Kilvanam Vel Endru Yerumai Siruveedu. Kilvanam is lower horizon. Bhumiyum Agayamum Serum Idathirku horizon endru peyar. Hindi purumbodu, jab Hindi mein baat karte hain, to usi ko bolte hain Kshitij. Kshitij is horizon. So in the horizon, I can see traces of white light, tells Andal. Kilvanam Vel means white. Endru. Then what is the next sign? Andal tells, Yerumai Siruveedu Meivan. Siruveedu in proper Tamil means pasturing land. Because Siruveedu can actually get translated into something which is not worth of mentioning here. So Siruveedu means pasturing land. Kilvanam Vellendru Yerumai Siruveedu. The big stock of buffaloes are going grazing there. Meivan Parandanakan Mikkulla Pillaigalum Povan. So all the other children have also woken up because the buffaloes have gone grazing. The horizon is white. So, oh my dear friend, wake up. You know what the girl inside the house, she says? She says, Andal, you're mistaken. It's not early hours of morning. It's a Brahma. It's an illusion to you. Andal asks how? Look at the way the girl inside describes. She says, it is not just you, Andal. All our 5 lakh women folk of Srivilliputtur have come here to wake me up. How are your faces? Your faces look like full moon. Imagine 5 lakh women with full moon like face and radiance are coming together. So the reflection of their whiteness on their face fell onto the clouds. So it has turned white. It is not early morning because you all have come together with moon-like faces. The whiteness from your face has come to the sky. Then Andal asks, okay, for that you're telling, it has turned white. But I'm also telling the buffaloes have come, right? The girl inside says, it is not actually the buffaloes, you've mistaken. You girls with moon-like face have come together and you keep looking at the sky, so the sky looks temporarily white and bright. You all have black tresses, hair tresses. So with such curly, effervescent black tresses, you're all your hair locks are facing backwards. So the black hue in your hair has reflected on the white clouds, and since the white clouds keep moving, the black hue that has fallen on the clouds seems as if stalks of buffaloes are moving. So, Kilvanam Vellendru Yerumai Siruveedu Meivan. So, even in Tamil literature, to describe the face, to describe the stability of the mind, the moon has been used. That is why I mentioned at the start. In Tamil, the word for the moon is Madi. The word for the mind is also Madi. Because, of course, in Kerala there's a different meaning. Madi means enough. I will stop my lecture. I'll take that also into account. We are very close to the border as well. So, mind is very, very important for one to crystallize the thought process, which is a verb that turns into a noun. Such thoughts which are crystallized see and take shapes in the form of literature, both in Sanskritam and Tamil. So a civilization starts assimilating such thoughts, and the power of such thoughts can only be felt when you read. So the topic given to me was power of thoughts. Thoughts comes from the mind. The mind in the Indic civilization stands for moon, and this is referred to as the land of the moon, which is the land of the stable mind people. So, when we have such stable minds, when we have such beautiful thoughts that emanate from such minds, they get crystallized into literature, and the power of such thoughts can be felt only when you read literature. So, with this, I think I will take up a few more questions before this session is done. Yeah. Thank you so much for your patience. I'm sure there were bright minds with such great clarity right from the first session to the second. We have heard so many people who have touched various levels and heights of successes speak. A learning process in itself. As stated earlier, my connection with Shankar, his team, all people who work with him, and to many dignitaries present here is so special in its own way. So, my obeisances to all of them who are present here, and to an audience. What happens is in such summits, the mood of a session changes one after the other. If the mood of the first session was a certain thing A, then it goes to mood B in the next session, and now mood C. So, more than the speaker who has to work, it is the audience who have to get accustomed to the change of A to B and B to C. But I'm sure that's going to be easy because we are going to be the land of the moon. So the land of the moon knows how to transition itself and come with a stable mind and work towards the stability of the mind. Thank you once again for being such a sport and giving such patient hearing to this talk. Of course, there's a question and answer session. Shankar will be moderating it and she'll be asking me questions. The questions I'm sure will be interesting. I'm not sure about the answers. If I know of the answers, I'll confidently answer. If I do not know of the answer, I'll be more than confident to say that I don't know the answer. Thank you.
Coimbatore wants to know.
Okay.
Okay. Now the first question is, Dushyath, there was a time, I can't quote verses like you, there was a time when Ram was really upset with Sugrivan. That 4 months of monsoon, he was waiting for Sugrivan to come back and help him with those monkeys and all that. And when his frustration was at his peak, he finally sends Lakshmana to go and meet Sugrivan and reminds him of his promise. So what I would like to ask you, Now there are two ways of looking at it. You look at Ram and Sita either as normal human beings, or you look at them as Vishnu and his wife. Was Ram, who's known to be the absolute man, was he sent Lakshmana to meet Sugrivan to vent out his anger. He was like frustrated. I would like to understand it as to what was his thoughts then and what was running in his mind. Was he wanting to do something else? Okay, now the second question. So finally what happens is they go convince and then Sugriva comes and helps. Then we have Hanuman who goes and meets Sita and then they give Chuda money and so. There's a time when Hanuman tries to convince Sita in saying that I have a long tail. Why didn't you come with me? I'll take you to Ayodhya. Sita refuses. He says that no. We've all heard from your discourses and whatever little we study that she's the absolute power. She's known for everything. She's not curt, but she's known to be a very powerful lady. Was there a thought running in her mind at that point in time that she was basically trying to question the ability of Rama? At some point in time, she must have felt that this is not what it is. I'm equally frustrated. So these are the two questions, and then it would be good if your replies come in as normal Rama and Sita, not as. That's it.
Okay. So, in the 10 minutes that was allotted for this question and answer session, I'm thankful that Shankar has taken 3.5 minutes. So, I'm left with 6.5. So, I'll be very quick. So, to the first question that he asked, as to there was an MOU signed between Sugriva and Rama. The memorandum of understanding was, my wife is lost, your wife is lost. I shall help you in the process of getting your wife back, and you should help in the process of getting my wife back. That was the understanding. So Rama cleared the first part. The first clause 1A and 1B was done because he helped vanquish Vali. He made Sugriva the king. He made Vali's son Angada the heir apparent, the Yuvaraja. Or in Tamil, the word that has been misconstrued and construed in the political and the cinematic circle, Talapadi. So he made Angada the Talapadi. Let's take the word as just the way it appears in the dictionary and let's not add any flowery emotions to it. So after having made this, the promise was to be kept up by Sugriva, because Sugriva said, the moment I am helped, I shall help you back. So in the 4 months time, which is called Chaturmasyam, heavy monsoon season, he said, my monkeys cannot go in search. They have a huge sinus problem. So they can't search during the 4 months of the monsoon. So let's take a sabbatical. After 4 months, I shall get back to you. So Rama was waiting for the blue tick of, not the Twitter, it's chargeable. So he was waiting for the non-chargeable WhatsApp blue tick. So WhatsApp also gives a tick if you have not turned your settings off. So he was waiting for the tick because Rama had sent a message to Sugriva, when is your turn? 4 months to ho gaya, kab aane wale ho tum? So 4 months happened and then there was no network at all from Sugriva's land of Kishkinda, which is Bellari. So the moment Rama got this situation gauged, he sent his brother. So here is where Shankar asked the question, why should Rama went? Because Rama is called as the complete man. He's the Raymond of those days. So when he's the complete man, how could he manage to get angry? First of all, this is the way we have been told. Because we never read the original book. We always read the statement issued by a political leader who has never read the book. That's how we are. So the original book doesn't tell that Rama is a complete man and all of that. It is the biography, a prosopography of a man whose life you can learn and unlearn from. Simple. So in Rama's life, Rama had his own set of values and perfections and small set of imperfections too, because that is what makes you a complete man. If you become completely devoid of flaws, you become divine. So he was trying to be as human as possible. In the process, Rama was of course a person who had to vent his anger because his wife is lost, he has lost his kingdom, his wife is lost, he is in a no man's land, and he had made a vow that he will not enter any kingdom. I will always stay in the outskirts. Once upon a time, Chennai had its own outskirts like Tambaram and everything. Now Chengalpet is an integral part of Chennai. So I don't know which is the outskirt of Chennai. So let's say Bangalore is the outskirts of Chennai. So he was staying in Bangalore, and that is when he sends his brother, because it was a custom in those days that you always let people of their positions meet. A foreign minister always is welcomed by the foreign minister of another country. So Rama did not want to go meet Sugriva because Sugriva was paying his taxes to the Ayodhya processing center. Ikshvakuna miyam bhumihi sashaila vanakanana. So he was a subset of the superset called as Ayodhya. So Rama could have not met him formally. So he sends his brother. So one is an act of vent. You vent off your anger. Second, you remind the other person your promise. See, it's not only anger. You have to remind that person because that man was a monkey. Monkeys are generally fickle-minded. Kshana-chittam, kshana-pittam. They are very indecisive. So you have to remind the indecisive monkey to be decisive at least for a moment. So he had to send his brother. The third reason is, if you suppose you have made a promise to do something and you don't keep up that promise, you shall incur sin. So Rama did not want his friend Sugriva to incur the sin of not keeping up his promise. So he sent his brother. So all these were reminders given to Sugriva. Why did I touch upon the point that Rama should be treated the way Valmiki is given? Because Valmiki has treated him as any normal human being. So beautiful. Of course, we worship, we pray. But when we pray, we see him as a human being who encompasses pluses and minuses. Nammalvar, the person who has given Thiruvaimozhi says, Karpari Ramabiranai Allal Matrum Karparo Purpa Pullerumbadu Ninniye Narpal Ayothil Varum Characharangal Mutravum Narpalukku Uitanan Nanmuganar Petta Nattule, says Nammalvar of Tirukkurugur. Now, let me come to the second question. The second question was of Hanuman. Hanuman was on a surgical strike. He went at 10 p.m. in the night and came back at 5 a.m. in the morning. He went to the neighboring country called Lanka. So he had to come. Otherwise, because he was caught. The beauty was he was the Abhinandan 1.0. He was caught. And Ravana said, let me kill him. That's when Vibhishana said, as per Geneva Convention, you have to send him back. So he was sent back. This Hanuman ended up meeting the lady called Sita, who was languishing herself in the prison of Lanka. That is when he tells Mata Sita, why worry? Let's keep the story straight. You sit at the back. I will tie a belt. I will carry you along. Ramayana ends here. You can save 3 days of Dushyant's Navaham. So, deal done. Why kill so many people? Why fight? Even before Ashoka became a great preacher of peace in the Kalinga war, let's make Rama the person who practices it. Let's stop the war. But Sita was very careful and she insisted that Rama come. That is when Shankar intervenes and asks, when Sita is so all-powerful, she could have very well come. Why did she have to wait for Rama to come? Was she testing Rama's valor? She wanted Rama to keep up his promise. Because Rama was married to Sita while she was at the age of 6 and he was at the age of 12. That's what Ramayanam states. There is no dispute about it. Now comes a question, sir, isn't this child marriage? Yes, it is a child-to-child marriage. Why, sir? Because in those days, the practice was the moment the boy or the girl becomes mature enough to think, they'll get married. So maturity, if it dawns at 6 years, you can marry. If maturity is a criteria today, most of them will become spinsters and bachelors. So that's not something that we are going to go into. But here, to this little girl Sita was 6 years. She had barely completed Wheels on the Bus and Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Well, she was married to Rama. That is when the father was a bit worried, anxious. He was from Nepal. So Janaka said to Rama, who is from Uttar Pradesh, that my daughter is getting married to you. So what will you do with my daughter? Don't worry, I will take good care of her. Because he is 12 years, she was 6 years. So he's promised that I will take good care of her. Now Sita wants Rama to keep up his promise. See, it's not that she is not powerful, it's not that she can't rescue herself. She wanted him to keep up his promise. I just told you some time back, right? If you don't help the other person in fulfilling their promise, they will incur a sin. So she said, let him come and protect me. One. Second thing, however powerful you are, let's take individually, each of us, the man or the woman, however powerful we are, when we are in a distress, unconsciously, inadvertently, we will always expect expect one of our closest relatives to help us. See, when we fall, generally in English you say we fell down. That's a redundant statement because you can't fall up. You can always fall down. So you don't have to use the word down at all. But nevertheless, when I fall, I can get up. But I would still see if somebody is around who can give me a helping hand. Not because I can't do it, but I want the other person's existence to also be proven fruitful. So I tell, why don't you come and give me a helping hand? So Sita could rescue herself. But she was in a beautiful commitment and an institution called marriage where the other partner, if the man is suffering, the girl has to help. We have it. While Krishna's driver to Pragjyotishapura was lost in Bhagavatam, his wife Satyabhama says, I will come and become your driver. In Ramayana, when Sita is languishing in the prison, she says, let my husband come and rescue me. What is he there for? I just don't need a marriage certificate with a chapa on it. Let him come and do his job. Not because she was less powerful, but she wanted to tell her husband, you have a purpose, come and do that. So, this act of Sita telling Hanuman that I won't travel with you was not out of shyness, coyness, that a parastri cannot come behind the son, because she treated Hanuman as a son. So many mothers travel behind their sons on the scooters of Besmambalam, right? So it's not a big, it's not something wrong. She did not do it out of coyness. She just said, let him serve his purpose. See, Shankar may know the answers for both the questions. But why is he asking? Because the moment he asks, 10 people who do not know the answer will know. Why did Sita ask, tell Hanuman that I won't come with you, let Rama come and rescue? Then only people like us can complete a Napaham in 9 days. Otherwise our remuneration will be cut in half, and the 5th day I have to tell my audience to go back home. So on a lighter vein this was said. He started with the lightest of the veins. I'm just concluding with a comparative degree of being lighter. Nevertheless, both the questions which are related to Ramayanam, one simply talks about the institution of keeping up the promise which was between Sugriva and Rama. Second talks about the institution of the marriage between Rama and Sita, where one partner holds the other with respect. So these are the two questions. I hope I've answered. I've taken at least 12 minutes, a few minutes more than what was subscribed to me. Any more questions? That's all. Done? Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks.